Hi everybody.
Hey there, I'm Roxanne Webster.
And I'm Keith Alba.
We are the owners and partners of my home team at Keller Williams.
That's right. And we are here for the next Honest Hour.
That's right. No spin environment except me.
Yeah, where we talk about everything real estate adjacent, and kind of what our thoughts are.
And if you could please hit the subscribe button.
So make sure you do that and hit that bell so you get the alert when we do
And like
post
this
new
video. Share it too.
Yeah,
to
please.
everybody, because it's gems.
Gems, absolutely.
So every year we go, Keller Williams has got a national sales event, and Gary Keller always does an outstanding job of kind of drilling down on the economics that impact the real estate market. So we're doing a series on this information. Most of this information comes from the National Association of Realtors.
Right.
And the first one we're going to talk about today is annual home sales.
That's right.
Sexy.
Yeah. Yeah, how many houses sold last year, right? We still don't have an exact number of final total. So what you'll see for 24 for last year is what's kind of projected currently, and a month or so down the road, I think we'll finalize those. But they're pretty good in their projections, yeah, for sure. So the projection for 2024 is that there's going to be about
4.1 million
home sales.
Yeah, which is similar to 2023, right? So we saw, and for perspective, we saw 6.1 million in 2020, 2021, right? So 2020 we had like 5.3 million, then we were up to 5.6, and then up to, 5.6, sorry, in 2020. 2021 we were at 6.1. Then we dropped in 22 to 5 million, and then 23 and 24 we've had 4.1 million each.
Just kind of a little bit flat, which if you look back historically, that's going to take you back to basically the 08 time frame.
That's right.
Right at the cusp of the Great Recession.
Of the Great Recession.
Yeah, so that was the last time we saw that level of home sales.
The thing that's interesting about it, though, if we take a look at kind of the heat of the market and some of the things that have been really driving, whether or not this is good news or bad news, right? Some of the things that have been driving housing prices going up and so forth, you've got kind of a trend line of how much growth you have over the years and what's considered healthy. And even though a 2 million unit drop in housing sales off of in a 2-year period kind of feels hard for realtors, certainly, right?
Right, and maybe some homeowners,
and
right?
Some
they
homeowners.
were just watching that appreciation stack on each other, 8-10% a year. It feels
Put the
great.
house on the market, fist fights in the front yard.
Yeah, I'm house rich.
Right, and then we see, a big drop off of that, from 6 million to 4 million.
Just call it what it is. It's been a correction.
It's a correction,
because
right?
that type of real estate market isn't healthy. It's not sustainable. Really affected affordability back in those days.
Yep. And it's not like we've gone backwards in any significant way from that affordability. We're seeing some markets, Denver isn't one of them, where we've seen some significant correction in the prices, which we'll talk about in another video. But if you take a look at that trend line, that drop back for 2 years really has brought us to the trend line in the number of
reverted
sales.
closer to the mean is what
That's
they would
right.
say, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a normal occurrence, right?
That's right.
You see it in the housing market, you'll see it in the stock markets, whether it's the Dow, that's NASDAQ, the S&P. When things get overly heated and there's massive growth or, just this...
Over exuberance.
There you go, that's a good word for it. There needs to be, and there will be, just by normal economics, there's going to be that reversion to the mean, or kind of back towards that trend line.
That's right. And I think that it's how to say it, right? I think that for the health of the housing market, right, a little bit of correction out of that heat. I'll tell you, I did not like a market where the conversations I was having with buyers was that if you want to buy a house, you need to be willing to bring in $100,000 extra cash above the list price. You need to be willing to waive your right to terminate the contract if it won't appraise at that value. And if you want to buy the house, you're competing with people who are willing to buy it in as-is condition without asking for any repairs. I didn't like that market. I didn't like that market for buyers, but I also didn't like it for sellers, right? Because I think, and we're seeing it now.
Well, you know who liked that market?
Who liked that market?
Attorneys.
Attorneys! Why did they like that market, Keith?
Because now, after that market has subsided, the attorney's business has picked up significantly. Right now, there are those buyers that were forced into that situation who are finding defects with the house that they feel like they were duped in by the sellers for lack of disclosure, or the seller intentionally withheld it, or, you know, kind of those information. So, you know, they run to an attorney and lawsuits are flying.
That's right.
Seeing a lot of that happening, and so yeah, it's good for the attorneys. Not good for buyers or sellers. I would agree with you in that sense.
That's right.
Because now they're having to spend all that money, right? So the buyers had to come out of pocket for $100,000 more. Seller thought they had this windfall, but that money will get eaten up pretty quickly in attorney's fees.
That's right, by the attorneys, right?
Or potentially judgments too, if the courts, lean towards the buyer's case and believes the buyer that the seller should have disclosed or had actual knowledge and failed to disclose. That windfall that they thought they had is going to the attorneys and going to against the judgment from the courts.
And realtors are not going to be unscathed by that either. If the only advice you're giving to somebody is this is what you have to do, right? If rather than saying if you want this house. I mean, I had some clients during those years where I said, I know you, I know and love your family. You don't have the temperament for this.
Well, like I always say, right, our job as real estate agents is to advise and consult and let the consumers make the decision, right? And if we weren't advising in terms of here's what the current status of the market is and here are the pros and cons of entering into that market and playing into those games that are out there, I do think there was a failure of our duties of agents that were having those conversations.
That's right. People moving too fast and frankly not having ever worked outside of that type of market, not having the skill level to have those conversations with people.
Right. Or knowledge base to even draft off of.
So, right. So from a larger kind of macro scale, this type of adjustment I don't feel to be bad news for the market. It is painful for some sellers in the market right now, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you bought it within the past couple of years. Right, if we look at we'll be talking about this a little in another video, but if we look at the kind of natural appreciation rates, what is considered again a healthy and trending appreciation rates, the rate at which it gains value, for the past many decades, that number has averaged about 4% a year. You've got some years that are higher, some years that are lower, but that kind of trend line of healthy appreciation is about 4% per year, right? So if we have seen that number stabilize and flatten out this year as we saw a big drop in the inventory, those same things, if you bought that house in the past couple of years and you're trying to sell it, it may be and you've gotten used to the idea that your house could gain,
massive amounts of appreciation.
20% per year, of course you're going to be disappointed and there can be some pain there.
Right, absolutely, yeah. But looking forward, I mean, they're talking about the expectations into 2025 is that we will start seeing the number of home sales increasing year over year. Not significantly, but it will start now going back up versus the big drop that we've had since 22.
Yeah, so hopefully this adjustment is, we could see another, my crystal ball is that 2025 looks and feels and smells and tastes largely like 2024 did, right? 2023 was the brutal year where we saw just everything drop.
Rug pull, right?
That's
right. What it felt like. It's just kind of things were yanked out from underneath us. But yeah, then 2 years of kind of that, and now maybe a little bit coming back up some. So,
yeah.
But we'll see, right? There's always outside influences, the factors that could come in and disrupt all of that, right? Another world war or terrorist event or global pandemic or
Who knows what?
yeah, the locusts turned into
The locusts
zombies.
descend. The Z.
Flesh-eating zombie locust. Who knows what this year has in store for us? So
That's right.
time will tell. But
Reminder, hit that subscribe button.
yeah, because we'll be talking about it when it happens. Right?
We will be talking about it. We'll have locust little, head.
Yeah, like the cheese heads.
The cheese
but
heads,
it's
that's
a
right.
locust.
Eat the cheese. That's what I'm talking about.
See you in the next one.